Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 15 of Spirit of Le Mans, the review series where I'm evaluating the upsides and downsides of each purpose-built Le Mans prototype on Gran Turismo 6. So in this episode, as you can see, we're featuring the Mercedes CLK-LM. This is essentially a variation of the CLK GTR, but instead of a V12 engine, it uses a V8 to save weight. Now this car is often overlooked by most people. It was by far my most used race car on Gran Turismo 5, so is it any good on Gran Turismo 6? Well, let's go to the track and find out. So the CLK-LM can sometimes be forgotten by some people, and you can understand why. The problem with the CLK-LM is similar to the problem that the Panoz Esperante GTR1 has, and that is it's pretty heavy. Now the Nissan R390 is also quite a heavy car. It actually weighs exactly the same as the CLK-LM, but the R390 does have more power, and the R390, I mean, they're both purpose-built prototypes, but the R390 just has a bit more focus about it, like it was built specifically for the Le Mans, whereas the CLK-LM feels a bit more like just an all-round car for, you know, for every track kind of thing, a bit like the Porsche 911 GT1. So is it any good? Well, for acceleration, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5, because it's not bad, but as you'd expect, it's not as quick as many of the other prototypes. For low-speed handling, I'm actually going to give it a 5, because it's really, really good. The low-speed handling is very smooth, it's very easy to drive. And for the brakes, again, I'm going to give it a strong 5 out of 5, because it's very good. Overall, on city tracks as well, I'm going to give it a 5, because although it's not the quickest, it handles really well on city tracks, and it's very easy to get good times with this car. The handling is something more akin to a touring car than a prototype. So that's it for our first track. Now let's go to Ascari. So we established that the CLK-LM makes, although not the quickest, a very, very good city car. So how does it fare on moderate speed technical tracks such as Ascari? Well, it fares very well, because again, although it's not the quickest, it's around 4 seconds off the pace of the Sauber C9, which, when you think about it, isn't that bad, considering this car weighs over 100 kilos more and produces over 200 horsepower less. That's still pretty impressive. But the best point about this car on this track is the sheer drivability of the car. And what I mean by that is this is the type of car that you can just jump into and drive fast. The added weight gives the handling a real feeling of stability, and it gives it a healthy weight to the handling in a good way. It makes the handling feel very safe. The car is very forgiving. You can take corners at high speed without worrying about the car suddenly having snap oversteer and smashing you into a fence. Obviously it will spin like any of the prototypes, but overall the handling and drivability are excellent. So not surprisingly, for both mid-range handling and drivability, I'm going to give it a strong 5 out of 5. And overall on technical tracks such as this, again, I'm going to give it a strong 5, because although it's not the quickest, it does punch well above its weight. And for that, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. So that's it for our moderate speed technical tracks. Now let's finally go to our high speed track at Spa. So we've established that although it's not as quick as many of its rivals, the CLK-LM makes both a very good city car and an excellent mid-range track racing car. But how does it fare on high-speed tracks? Well, right off the bat, I'm going to say that this car is around 4 seconds off the pace of the Toyota GT1 on this track. But that's not bad, really, because the weight of this car is a significant disadvantage against the Toyota, and again, like with the Sauber C9, this car has a lot less power than the Toyota. Now for top-end performance, I'm only going to give it a 3 out of 5, because it's not that great. The top speed is a little bit slower than the R390, a bit quicker than the R18 TDI. But for high-speed handling, again, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. because it is really, really good. And overall, on high-speed tracks, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Because although on the lower speed tracks and moderate speed tracks, the handling really allows you to keep up with and sometimes be ahead of the pack, on high-speed tracks, with Spa not so much, but on many high-speed tracks, the lack of acceleration and top-end performance compared to its rivals does give it more of a disadvantage, and you will fall behind on tracks such as Lasarte. So overall, for high-speed tracks in general, it's going to get a 3 out of 5. So that's it for our track testing of the car. Now let's go back to the garage for a roundup of its best and worst point. So overall, the CLK-LM is never going to be the fastest on any of the circuits of Gran Turismo 6. It's never going to be the quickest of the prototypes, and it's never going to be able to beat every single one of them in a race. So why bother buying one? Is it worth buying one? Well, obviously you have to make your own decision on that. But I would say, yes, it is worth buying one. And the reason why is because, although it's not as quick as, say, a Pascalo or a 787B or a GT1, there are lots of racing cars that it is better than and that it can beat in racing, including the Panos, the Lister Storm, the BMW McLaren F1. It can beat those cars, and those aren't slow cars. And just because this one isn't the absolute fastest doesn't mean it's a bad car. Now, overall, I would say the best point about the CLK-LM is its sheer drivability. You can just jump in this car and drive fast. It's, as we said earlier, very forgiving. The added weight gives a nice amount of weight to the steering, makes it heavy but in a good way. It's very smooth, very reliable, I would say, the handling. It doesn't really do anything that will surprise you. It handles, as I think I said earlier in the video, it handles a little bit more like a touring car than a prototype. So there are certain people who their driving style, this car will really suit it well. People who really like driving touring cars, for instance, will probably really like the CLK-LM because it does handle like one. So overall, as with all the prototypes, I would recommend that you at least try it. As far as its worst point, well, its worst point is just that its pace can't really keep up with many of the absolute top-of-the-line prototypes. So yeah, that would be its main downside, just its lack of overall pace on most tracks. So overall, as I said, I would recommend that you try this car at least once. And as usual, I'll put the ratings and lap times that this car achieved down in the description of the video. And as always, thanks for watching.